Welcome back to the channel. Just in a quick update from last weekend's race at Roadford Lake down in Devon, which was a World Qualifier standard distance for Abu Dhabi next year, next November. So last one, I think it was the last qualifier of the year. Haven't done any this year, so I needed to get down and have a bit of a race out. I'd raced a couple of weeks ago at the British Champs, getting a silver. Rode pretty well there. Run legs still not quite where I really want them to be. So I was looking forward to getting down to Devon and having a bit of a hit out. Drove down the night before, the day before, so about 3-hour drive from just outside Birmingham in Stourbridge where we are. So drove down with my mum on the Saturday, got there around probably about 7 or 8 o'clock. I think it was about 8 o'clock we got there. Stayed in a little place which is about 10-15 minutes drive just further down from where the race was at Roadford Lake, and yeah, we stopped there, had a bit of food on the way down at some services just so that when I got there I just chilled out really, had some porridge in the evening, but stayed at a little golf resort, which was a nice little place to be fair. About £86 for the night, had a twin room, yeah, nice little bar and stuff there, which I didn't go to, but we stayed in, although it was a hotel, it was sort of like a little lodge really where we stayed, so that was really nice, really quiet, and just managed to get there, have a good night's sleep, and then on the Sunday morning the race was pretty early, so it was I think it was an 8 AM start, so hence driving down on the Saturday night because it would have been a bit too much of a drive and stuff to get there, and I had to get up super early, so for the price of the hotel it was worth it really. So yeah, Sunday morning 8 o'clock, got up about 5:45, had some nice porridge, just some like ready-made like one of these little porridge pots, so had that in the hotel, and then sort of made our way out probably about 6:30. I took the bike in the evening into the hotel, so I didn't leave that in the car, and then drove over to the race itself then, and got there about 7 o'clock. So lovely venue. Yeah, the course looked pretty good to be fair. The weather wasn't looking fantastic, which wasn't ideal, and probably in a big difference to where we're going to be racing next year in Abu Dhabi, to be fair. So yeah, some of the guys that I know had gone down the day before and recce'd the course, and said it was I think it was a 10k run, 46k 1 lap bike course, and then a 5k run, and I think the first run was obviously 2 laps, but when we got there in the morning, actually the race had been, the course had to be changed due to some roadworks going out on the standard course, so we actually changed the bike route from 46k 1 lap to the same course as the sprint guys and girls, so we had a 2 lap 20k, very undulating, if not I would say probably hilly sort of circuit on the bike, but loads of potholes and things like that on it as well, but I'll talk about that shortly. So yeah, got all my numbers, got racked up. Racing that time in the morning as well, it was always difficult. I got there at 7, by the time I'd racked up, gone to the toilet, put my kit on, got the bike out and everything, and done all that. It was really tough to get a bit of a warm-up before the race start, so I didn't really get as much of a warm-up as I wanted. Did a little bit of a run, but yeah, just didn't get the time really. I think on hindsight I probably could have just done a little bit of a steady jog at the hotel before going out to the race, and I didn't want to get there too early just to be hanging around, but they didn't open the registration till 7, although they did have a registration on the Saturday, which I suppose if I'd got there a bit earlier, I think it was open 2 till 3, so quite a few people had gone and registered on the Saturday, which probably would have made more sense, and then I wouldn't have had to rush around so much perhaps on the Sunday morning. Yeah, so like I said, it was a qualifier race. Age group news actually were pipping me as one of the favourites, which was a little bit pressure I haven't had before, so yeah, so unfortunately though the race was set off in waves, which we tend not to do that sort of these types of races. First time I've really known it, so I can't remember the age groups, but the first wave was sort of like the 20 to I think it was 22:30 or something like that, and then they went off at 8 o'clock, and then there was another wave off at 8:02, which must have been something from about 30 up to, I think it was the 44 age group, and then I went off in wave 3, which was the 45s to something like the 50s or something like that. So yeah, unfortunately then I was off on wave 3, so wasn't racing with a few of the other quick guys. So first run, went well. I actually wore some different trainers to what I have been wearing at my last race at the British Champs, and actually my race at Powerman. I'd bought some new Adidas Adi Zero shoes. I can't remember the name of the actual shoe, so I'll put that up on screen. But they're quite carbon plated or carbon rods, but quite a big cushion on them, and I'm not sure whether they've really been suiting me on a couple of the races that I've done. So I went back to my old, I think it's Takamiya or something, which is the sole on them is a lot thinner. For me, feels like I've got a lot more control on my foot plant and just feel a bit better in those shoes. So it was a pair that I've had now for a little while, so I wore them again for the run. We went off at 8:04. The run course was really nice, to be fair. Some people were saying it needed to be trail shoes, but actually we were okay wearing sort of carbon sort of road shoes. Most of it was sort of like gravelly, sort of tarmacy gravel sort of terrain, few sort of grass patches, and then some lovely sections through some woods. And there was a couple of patches which were on the grass which were a bit muddy, but generally it wasn't too bad. So first lap went pretty well. Actually running with a guy called Mark Allen, so an RAF guy, so really good runner, to be fair. So I just latched on with him, actually raced with him at Slateman, and we sort of ran together on pretty much the first run there. So we ran together pretty much through the first lap, and he'd recce'd the course the day before, so he was giving me a bit of direction, just telling me which bits to watch out for and stuff like that, which was really nice of him. And because we were in wave 3, actually we were sort of part way through the first lap starting to catch up with some of the wave 2 athletes, which was good because it meant we had someone to run off a little bit, but also a bit challenging when we were going through some of the wooded sections, as we were getting held up a little bit and we're trying to sort of navigate our way through some of the single trail with some of the other athletes. So we were just trying to just shout ahead and just let people know that we were coming through and things like that, and most people were really good about it. So we would sort of say, yeah, we're on the right, coming on your right, and generally they'd move over to the sort of left hand side of the trails and things, so which was really good. We sort of went through the first lap together. He pulled a little bit of a gap out on me coming into the second lap, but managed to sort of close that back up and actually went into the lead in our sort of wave 3, coming down one of the trails on the second lap, and then eventually caught a mate of mine called Phil, who'd started off in the second wave, who just wasn't really getting on too well with the grass sections. So we'd sort of gone past him. I'd actually thought he'd gone the wrong way, or he'd had a bit of an injury, and he actually come past us again on some of the tarmac. So the three of us sort of ran probably the last half a mile together, which was great. I just lost the back of Mark when we went into the sort of the transition. So, and also Phil, who'd started in the wave before, he'd sort of got into the transition a bit before me. So, but Phil was really good, strong cyclist. So, looking to get through transition, which went pretty well, much better than the British Champs a few weeks ago. Got through there pretty cleanly. I actually, during the summer, I tend to leave the shoes on the pedals and sort of run through transition barefoot, and then jump onto the bike as the pros do, and you'll see on the ITU circuit or even some of the Ironman races. So, but in the UK, when the weather's a bit damp and it's a bit miserable, I tend to sometimes maybe just leave the shoes on the ground, just because I feel like, what's the point in getting my feet soaking wet and riding in wet socks for sort of an hour, and then running a further sort of 5k then in wet shoes or wet socks if I don't need to. So for the sake of 5 seconds or whatever. I didn't think it was the need to put the shoes in on the bike. So put the shoes on, got the helmet on, got out. I'd had a gel sort of the last half mile or so into transition, which is where I lost the guys a little bit as I was chomping down a bit of a gel, but I always tried to get a gel in me on the last sort of section of the runs before getting onto the bike, and then get some fluid in pretty quickly coming out of the bike transition. But I managed to sort of work my way back up to Phil pretty quickly, and I'd got past Mark on the transition, was out ahead of him anyway, and then sort of went to work on the bike. Like I said, it was 2 laps undulating. Caught Phil. We had a little bit of a ding dong for about 5 mile or so, or maybe a little bit further, maybe 5, 6, 7 mile into the first lap, where we were passing each other and going for, and actually caught a few of the other guys from wave 2 as well. So we were pretty much, by the time I'd got into about 7 or 8 mile through the first lap, I'd probably caught all the guys from wave 2, which was really good, and sort of just put my head down really. Phil had come past me, I'd gone past him a couple of times, and then there was a couple of really bad patches on the course where there was a lot of potholes and things like that, on which, yeah, it was pretty bad to be fair, but it is what it is in the UK. So yeah, I managed to get past Phil again then, and really put a bit of a kick in on the bike. I tried to not ride to power, but try to ensure I'm riding around sort of the 250, 260 watts. But what I try to do with the power meter is just make sure on some of the inclines that I'm not going into the red too much. So where possible, I try not to creep over that 300 watts, and just trying to maintain a bit more of average pace all around on the bike. So try not to go into that red zone too much on the hills, which is really easy to do, to be fair, like getting out the saddle, kicking, but just try to keep it pretty even, and then even on the flats end, just working really hard at a good solid pace. So yeah, the bike was good. I think the only the feedback, and I sort of fed back this on the questionnaire or the survey that I had back from the race organiser afterwards, was just starting in the waves is great, but what tends to happen then, you're hitting a lot of other cyclists on the road that probably in the earlier waves that perhaps aren't moving at the same sort of pace, and I think that can be quite dangerous in a way. I think in some ways you're probably better off just starting the race as you would, and then people just naturally finding their ability and starting on the front line if you're quick, second row if you're not so quick, and then you're not getting as much people trying to overtake and pass on the roads. So I had a really, really good bike. Actually, the splits on the bike, I was, I think, 2 minutes 20 up on second quickest, on the second fastest bike. So I had a really, really solid bike, which I was really, really pleased with. I think the unfortunate thing when I was looking at, just having a look at the results now, when I was having a look at the results post race, the fact I was in the third wave was a little bit of a challenge, because coming off the bike, I'd actually rode all my way up to third overall, even with the staggers. But the 2 guys that were sort of battling it out for first and second, who were in the sort of the 25 to 29 age group, so I think one was 26, one was 28. So yeah, they've got 20 years near enough on me. They were obviously having a bit of a battle up the road, because they'd started in the earlier race. But looking at the splits, I'd actually, with my first run and coming off the transition, I was sort of a 149.19. I think the guy that finished second was a 150.59, and the guy that won overall was a 150.23. So I was about a minute up on my collective time from the first run, the transitions and the run. So actually, if I would have started in the same wave, I'd have probably had a minute coming into that transition, which probably meant I might have run a little bit harder perhaps on the final run, being that sort of being chased down as it was. I was sort of in a little bit of no man's land, probably still 4 minutes behind them after the stagger, or probably about 3 minutes at that point. And then obviously I've got a couple of guys behind me, but I'd managed to get away from on the bike who were in the earlier wave. So I was sort of on the final run just running on my own a little bit, and I'd obviously knew that I was winning the wave, got my qualification spot, and I was running pretty well to be fair, but I wasn't probably going into real red zone on the run. So in the end, came away with third overall. Was really chuffed with it. The winner was about minute 20 up the road, and the guy that was second, I think, was about 30 seconds up the road on me as well. So it perhaps might have been a little bit closer. Not sure. I would have maybe got a minute quicker on the run, but it's just a shame I probably wasn't in the race as such, and sort of in that third wave, just missing out on maybe even running a bit quicker on the first run, because me and Mark were sort of running on our own to a certain extent, so it might have been a bit more competitive perhaps if we were all running together as you would in probably an ordinary race. But really pleased with it. The bike course, lumpy, hilly, lots of potholes, and the weather was pretty horrible as well. So that's the second race after my season break that's been pretty miserable in terms of rain on the bike. It's the same at Alton Park, but that's a British sort of weather for you, especially when you're talking October, November, although it wasn't too cold. So third overall. I think I won my age group by about 10 minutes. Most of that was taken on the bike. It was great to catch up with quite a few of the guys that I know, and great to be racing with Phil again, who finished fourth overall as well. That should secure my spot now for Abu Dhabi next November, which in contrast to that race is going to be completely different. So you're going from a hilly, wet, muddy race in Devon to probably a flat, hot race in Abu Dhabi. But really enjoyed it. That's it probably now for duathlons for the year. I'll probably then look at getting some more in the new year. I think, haven't fully decided yet, but looks like the Powerman could have the European middle distance champs there again in Germany, in Alsdorf, which could be April, May time. So I think probably go out and do that. It's a really light racing out there, and the drive out there is pretty nice. And then the Abu Dhabi race in November. So it's sort of like quite a big season really, with sort of April, May, and then into November. Outside of that, really want to have a good crack at PBing on my 25 TT again in the summer. Club record, which I missed by 10 seconds this year due to the mishap on the detour when I rode my 49.46. So that's a big goal for me. Also talking to my coach as well, trying to shoot for the moon a little bit and see if I can get close to 49 and do a 48 something, which would be phenomenal. And then look at trying to get that elusive 20 minute 10 miler done, which in theory I've done now, because I've broke 50 for 25, which is the same pace but further. But it'd be good to just tick that off and hopefully ride a sub 20 as well next year on a quick course. With my PB over 25, I'm hoping, and the aim for next year is maybe see if I can get close to 19 and do an 18 something, which would be phenomenal. I think I can do it. So that'll be a couple of targets there. And then a couple of weeks time, I've got Matt Bottrell for a bike fit as well, just see if we can get some marginal gains. But thanks for watching. I really appreciate the feedback. I know I've been to a couple of races where people have said they've watched some of the content, so it's nice to see that people watch it and enjoy it, and hopefully see you all on the start line soon. Keep safe, keep healthy, train hard, and thanks for watching.